All right. Hello, everybody. So, today I'm going to be talking about the Coca-Cola and Coke of America case. And so, with this, these are two drink manufacturers that were started around the same time, but caused a lot of confusions because the names do sound familiar, of course. But I'll get started with talking about Coca-Cola and the whole history of them. But for starters, Coca-Cola was just a company that was started around 1885, 1886 ish, and it was started by a man called Dr. Pemberton. He was grown up in Atlanta and always had a dream of starting his own Coca-Cola business. He would make it as a kid, and he just loved the taste of it, so he decided to go into the market of soda drinks. So with that, Coca-Cola started with him and one of his colleagues working one day, and they were trying to think of a name because they didn't have a name for it yet. They were just producing the drinks, trying to taste test them and do all this stuff. So Coca-Cola itself comes from the coca leaves and then just cola as a drink itself. But they wanted to do Coca-Cola and spell it with two C's because they thought the branding of it, CC, would look very good right next to each other, which it is. I like it. And since then, since they started off with the name of it, they started producing Coca-Cola around Atlanta. They would produce around, 10,000 gallons a year, which wasn't too much, but it was good enough sales. But over the course of the next 10 years, they would go on to establish plants in Dallas, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, all around the U.S., which would very much help the company grow over the next 10 years. And since then, their production has gone up almost 25 to 30 times the amount as what it originally started out at. So very, very good. But company wouldn't go to stay long for Dr. Pemberton because he would actually go on to sell it not even 20 years later to a bunch of investors that would give him an incredible amount of money at the time for his company. But his company had only capitalized up to $100,000 at this point, and he was getting a little bit older and he wanted to enjoy himself, so he would sell his entire Coca-Cola business to investors for over $25 million, which was an insane amount of money at the time being. So now to present day, Coca-Cola itself is all over the world. It's not just in the US, it's over the globe, and its net worth today is about 250 to 300 billion dollars, which is quite insane for today. But now I'll go on to talk about Coca-Cola of America, and there's not really much to say about this because it's just a small business from Puerto Rico that didn't really make it too big, especially with the court case that we have today talking about copyright infringement. So it was just a little small place in Puerto Rico. They called it Coke, which was Koke, which is very similar to Coca-Cola. So with that being said, it was just a small place in Puerto Rico, and not much to really say about it. But the name itself is just very, very similar to Coca-Cola. So this will lead Coke to years later argue the name that Coke Co. of America was too misleading for Coca-Cola, so they would go file copyright infringement. And later, down in the 1950s, I think they would have a court ruling over it, and the court ruled to favor Coca-Cola Company over Coke Co. because the names were very, very, very similar. So Coke Co. of America would end up having to change their name to Cola with just a K, so just Kola. That would be their whole name from now on. But during this case, the injunctive relief against an infringer who wants to capitalize on the plaintiff's goodwill, can only be denied on the narrow premise of the plaintiff's trademark and advertising promises to the public. So regarding Coca-Cola of America, the plaintiff's position must be evaluated considering the facts that they were at the time the lawsuit was filed, not considering the facts of a later period or under different circumstances. So, with that being said, I mean, it's just a case of copyright infringement and trademark protection. Coca-Cola is just trying to make sure their name's not spread around or misheard by other people around the world. Because at the time being, it started out in the U.S., so not a lot of people overseas would know about it. So if anybody from the U.S. would come over and start talking about, hey, yo, let's go get some Coke, they would be like, okay, cool. They would go probably to the Puerto Rican place or buy some of their products. They had no idea. So with that being said, the names are just too similar, so which led to the whole ongoing issue with the court. But with that being said, that's the whole case for y'all. Really wrapped up, simplified, and everything. It's not really much of a talk about. It's just trademarks. Names are just too similar. But with that being said, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much.